What is going on YouTube? This is Lawrence over at Mighty Comics and Collectibles. We are back with another video. This time another Hot 10 list according to the Key Collector app. 10 of the hottest comic books on the planet selling for crazy amounts of money. Like always, I let you guys know if I'd be buying these books here or selling or maybe just holding on to. Either way, before this video and before every video, I ask if you guys are not a subscriber of the channel and you've been digging my content to go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me. It really helps the channel out. And of course, I want you to smash that like button for me if you dig this video or any of my other videos. Also, and most important, I want you guys to drop comments down below. Let me know what you think of this list. Would you be buying any of the books here? Do you not like any of the stuff here? Let me know down below because I always want to hear what you guys think. So let's just kick it off at number 10. This week at the 10 spot is Tales to Astonish number 13, the first appearance of Groot. Now this is a new addition to the top 10 this week. A nice Silver Age book that's really hard to come by. We've seen Groot in the MCU. We've seen him in some other stuff. I believe he's in the What If series. If you haven't checked that out yet, I don't know if he's appeared yet in these episodes. But either way, a CGC 2.0 recently sold this week for $1,300. Now, I'm not going to stop anyone out there from buying the first appearance of Groot. However, I pretty much think that Groot's day in the MCU is done. I know they're going to come out with his own Disney Plus series at some point, but to me, how much further can they go with this character? I'm not sure. I'm not really a buyer of this book here at this price, especially for the low grade. I know this book is really rare, and if you do want to add it to your collection, I'm all for it. However, I'm not paying these prices so much for a tertiary character in the comics. So, at number 9 this week is a copy of Uncanny X-Men number 64, the first appearance of Sunfire. Now, growing up, I was not a huge X-Men fan. However, I do think this is a pretty cool character, and it's an X-Men book that has really taken off, just kind of like any of the other X-Men books as well. But it's kind of like a lesser-known X-Men character. So, also, a CGC 2.0 sold for $738. Now, to me, I would like to pick up this book. I want to own this book, especially with the X-Men coming to the MCU, but I'm not paying $738 for a 2.0 copy of this book. Just maybe about 6 months to a year ago, you could have had this book for pretty cheap. Now this thing seems to be on fire, so I'm a buyer of this book if you can get it cheaper, but if not, at these prices, I'm staying away. At number 8 this week is a copy of Amazing Spider-Man number 2, the first appearance of the Vulture. Now, like any other Amazing Spider-Man book right now, these Silver Age first appearances are absolutely on fire. And believe it or not, this is actually the third appearance of Spider-Man as well. A CGC 3.0 sold this week for a whopping $3,350, which is some serious coin, especially since we've already seen the Vulture in the MCU taken out by none other than Michael Keaton himself, who did a really awesome job in Homecoming. He was great in that. I do believe he will reprise his role either in No Way Home, or obviously we're going to see him in Morbius because we saw him in the trailer, but he will be back in the MCU at some point. I am always a buyer of early Silver Age Amazing Spider-Man keys. I just think you can't go wrong. Long-term value, there's no better reward out there in my opinion. So if you want to pick up this book and if you can afford it, I'd always be buying it. However, this is a pretty hefty price to pay, even though it is a major key. At number 7 this week is a book that was on the list last week, Amazing Spider-Man number 16, the first Spider-Man and Daredevil crossover. While I own this book, guys, I said it last week, this is a pretty hefty book considering it's not a first appearance book. It is an early Silver Age Amazing Spider-Man. A CGC 3.5 recently sold this week for $650, which is pretty penny. Again, I own this book. I want to own this book, but for that price on a 3.5, I'm not going to spend that kind of money on a non-key, even though it is an early Silver Age Amazing Spider-Man book. However, if you can pick up this book for cheap, even if it is lower grade, I definitely want to add it to the collection because it does hold value, and I would want it in my collection. So keep that in mind. I'm not going to pay up for it, but I would add it to the collection. At number 6 is a book that's been on the list, I feel like, forever. It is Thor 165, the first appearance of him out of the cocoon, which later goes on to become Adam Warlock. We've talked about this book weekly for the past couple of months. I am definitely a buyer of this book at any price, and the CGC 4.0 recently sold for $420. So this book keeps creeping up every week, and it's been on the hot 10 list for about a month now. I'm still a buyer of this book at $400 something for a 4.0, only for the fact that we know he's going to show up in the MCU at some point. I still think this is a Silver Age key that is highly undervalued. Like I said before, I'd be owning all 3 of these keys: Fantastic Four 67, Thor 165, and of course Marvel Premiere #1. I'm picking up all 3 and adding them to the collection because I do believe all 3 will go up once we actually see him in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and that's the movie we expect him to come in. So definitely adding this one, and I'll keep saying that week after week. At number 5 this week is another book that hasn't been on the list at all. Green Lantern #87, the first appearance of Jon Stewart as the new Green Lantern. Believe it or not, DC is finally getting some love, having some DC books over the past couple of weeks. I'm really happy to see that. It's CGC 4.5, believe it or not, sold last week for $500. Now, I remember walking into my LCS maybe about a year and a half ago, and they had a mid to low grade copy for $20, believe it or not. And I snatched that book up while I could. I actually no longer own it. I wish I still did. But either way, this book has actually had a monumental rise in value over the past couple of years. For a 4.5, we're now going to pay $500 for this book. I'm not a buyer here at those prices. I like Jon Stewart. I love the character, and I enjoy Green Lantern. But to me, that seems like a lot of money to spend for the first Jon Stewart as Green Lantern. To me, that's just me. I'm not going to shell out that kind of money for a DC 4.5 right now. I think it's too much. However, if you could find one for a decent price, I always want to add this book to my collection. It is a key. I do love the cover. I believe it's a Neil Adams cover as well, but not for these prices, guys. I'd hold off on that one. At number 4 this week is another book that's been on the list for a couple of weeks. Amazing Spider-Man Annual #1, the first appearance of the Sinister Six. Again, this book is super hot. I actually own a 1.5 copy of this book. Again, I am going to say stick to the lower grades on this thing because the higher the grade, the outrageous the prices are. And like I said, a CGC 6.5, take a seat, guys, just sold for $4,750, which to me is a crazy price for this book. I know it is really hard to find in higher grades. I mentioned to you guys last week that there is a Canadian version with a blank back cover. I would stay away from that one if you can. Buy the US version. And of course, it's a square bound book, which makes it even harder to find. So with that said, I'd be buying this book over at lower grades if it's a book you want to own, but I always prefer buying the individual first appearances as, notwithstanding the first appearance of the Sinister Six. I'd rather have the original first appearances of each individual character. But like I said, if you can't do that, I'm happy to own this book. I'm happy to add this collection, but I'm not shelling out $5,000 for it, but I do want it in my collection. At number 3 this week is another book that's been on the list recently. It is Black Panther #2, the first appearance of Shuri, which later she goes on to become the new Black Panther. And everybody's speculating in Wakanda Forever, Black Panther 2, is she going to be the one to take up the mantle of the Black Panther in this movie? And I'm probably saying yes, so I'm going to go along with the speculation and say that this book is hot for a reason. Now, with that said, a CGC 9.8 recently just sold for $1,300, and to me that is a pretty penny to spend for a 9.8 of this book. Again, for a speculation character becoming the Black Panther. To me, I'm not spending that kind of money on a modern age book unless I'm really, really attracted to the character. So if you are and Shuri's your thing and you love her to death and you want to spend the money, go right ahead. I'm not doing it. I think it's a lot of money. I'd rather have a lower grade copy of an early Amazing Spider-Man, to me, like a villain, stuff like that. You could find a low grade ASM for that kind of money. So to me, I'm staying away from Black Panther #2 for Shuri, although I would love to own it, don't get me wrong. The amount of money is just too much for me. But I will say this, guys, if you are going to buy this book, you have to buy it in 9.6 or 9.8, nothing lower. Definitely wouldn't do it. So keep those words in mind. At number 2 this week is another Amazing Spider-Man book, Amazing Spider-Man #5, the first Spider-Man versus Dr. Doom in a comic. Now, I will say this. This is one of my favorite early Amazing Spider-Man covers, and we talked about it last week, how Fantastic Four #5, it's gone through the roof, and it's really unattainable by 99% of the people out there. This is a nice alternative to have, in my opinion. It's not going to break the bank in lower grades. However, the CGC 4.0 recently sold for $1,700, and to me, that is a lot of money. I remember when I picked up my copy, and it's probably around a $2,500. I paid about a couple of $100 for it, $250 maybe. I'm not spending $1,700 on this book. However, I will pick up this book in lower grade if I can find it for a deal, because it is a nice alternative to have, like I said, for Dr. Doom. Now, there are other alternatives as well. There's a Fantastic Four annual as well that you can pick up that was on this #1 last week. Now, of course, we have ASM5 hitting the number 2 spot on this week's list. You guys let me know what you think. Would you be buying this book for these prices? Would you rather save the money and try to save up for a Fantastic Four number 5? I'm interested in what you guys think down below. Dr. Doom is a huge character, and he is going to come to the MCU, so a lot of people are snatching these books up. To me, I'm an Amazing Spider-Man fan, and I'm also a completist, so if I could find these books for a decent price, I'd always be willing to buy it, guys. At the top spot this week, guys, is a copy of Invincible Iron Man number 9, the variant cover, the first appearance of Riri Williams. Now, I will say this book is absolutely on fire. It's CGC 9.8, just sold last week for $4,995. And to me, I just don't get it. I don't understand how someone could spend $5,000 on a modern age book. We see amazing first appearances, Silver Age first appearances that are selling for $5,000. You can have probably a mid-grade first appearance of the Silver Surfer, a low-grade first appearance of Dr. Doom for that kind of money. I actually just saw somebody on Instagram selling a 0.5 Incredible Hulk 1 complete for $6,000. Are you telling me that you'd rather spend $5,000 on a modern book? I get it that this book there's not a lot of copies of this book around because of the variant cover, and it was an incentive book as well, so I get that the scarcity of this book is driving up the value, but to me, we're talking about investment over time. What would you rather have, an Incredible Hulk 1, a Fantastic Four 5, or Invincible Iron Man number 9? Granted, it's a first appearance, it's the first appearance of Riri Williams, but it's a variant cover. If you want to go get the first Riri, go get the A cover, please. Go spend a small amount of money or a medium-sized amount of money to have the first appearance. Just because it's a variant cover and it's scarce, you're going to shell out a crazy amount of money. To me, this is just insane. It's just like the insanity with the, not the direct editions, but the newsstand copies. You're going to pay a premium because it is a newsstand copy and it's more scarce. This is crazy stuff that I talk about in this hobby that I think I don't want to say it's ruining part of the hobby, but it's driving people, especially newer collectors and people who are, resellers or stuff like that. It's driving books that shouldn't be going up in value to prices that they shouldn't be at. And that's just my opinion. Like all this video is, guys, all it is my opinion and what I'd be doing. To spend $5,000 in this book I think is absolutely insane. And of course, you'd have to buy this book in a 9.6 or 9.8 like all modern books. To me, that's the only way I would buy it, but I definitely would not be shelling out the money that it's going for right now. So that's it for this Hot 10, guys. Let me know, of course, what you think down in the comments. Like always, I hope you enjoyed this. I am still waiting for CGC to send back my books. It says they printed the shipping label. I'm just waiting for FedEx to pick them up and deliver them to my home. And then, of course, I'll jump on here and show you guys what the grades are. I'm excited to see what they are. Like always, this is Lawrence over at Mighty Comics and Collectibles saying thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.